the bar. We normally have a very casual, interactive, and a session which is has a strong undercurrent of humor. For a change, we thought we would do a session that is that promises to be very, very interesting. It's about something that all of us have been reading in the papers and seeing in courts by way of a special bench, proceedings before a special bench. Normally, in all these sessions, we have at least a couple of minutes about which is a brief about the speaker as well as about the topic. But in this case, the speaker and me, namely Vijay Kumar, and because of the rapport that we have established over the last few days, and by the very fact that both of us have been born and brought up in Madras, we generally don't have any form of respect, at least in the verbal communications. And therefore, Vijay and me were having a chat as to there is no necessity for any introduction, because the introduction, if at all I give any about him, is going to be effectively the subject of his presentation. And therefore, we have with us to speak to us for the next 60 minutes or maybe even more, and maybe to field questions. Vijay Kumar, the author of The Idol Thief, a person who's been responsible for uh, bringing back to India many idols, artifacts, and antiquities which have been stolen and smuggled out of India. Vijay, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you again for the audience. Or Sunday afternoon, Madras, so many people coming up to watch. So without much ado, I'm going to jump into what we're going to see today, because I normally going to hog all the time that you guys are going to give me. So that's the project that we do. It's called India Pride Project. I hope my screen is visible. It's simple and short: restoring India's pride. That's our objective. We looking at bringing our gods home. That's the hashtag that currently we use in social media. அதுக்கு முன்னாடி, because my talks are usually long, I would tend to have the சமர்ப்பணம் at the start, because கடைசி வரைக்கும் எவ்வளவு பேர் இருக்கீங்கன்னு தெரியாது. So அதனால I'm going to start with the சமர்ப்பணம் first for a change. The நிகரலா கலைக்கு வாழ்வை அர்ப்பணித்து அழிவில்லா சிற்பங்களை படைத்த படைப்பாளிகள். So my first salute to the sculptor. அற்புத கலைகளை ஆதரித்து வளர்த்த அரசர்கள், the kings and the royalty that அதாவது சாப்பாடு இருந்தால் தான் கலையும் வரும். ஸோ அவங்கள ஆதரித்த அரசர்களுக்கும் இன்றும் நம் குலதானங்களை மதித்து ரசனையுடன் பார்க்கும் ரசிகனங்கள், அதாவது உங்களுக்கும் சமர்ப்பணம். மிஸ்டர் ஸ்ரீராம் வாஸ் வெரி கிளியர் தட் தமிழும் ஆங்கிலமும் கலந்து இருக்கணும்னு. ஸோ மை தமிழ் அப்பாலஜைஸ், ஏன்னா மெட்ராஸ் பாஷையோட இல்லாமல் அப்படிலாம் இருக்குன்னு மன்னிச்சுக்கோங்க. I'll try to stick to a bilingual narration as much as possible. Most of it, what we are going to see today, is going to break your heart. So I'm going to start off by the tribute dedicated to the unknown artists and sculptors who created these divine works of art, kings who supported them, the chieftains who supported them, and to the people, basically the connoisseurs, who still continue to enjoy them as gods. The kadasi vartha vandu very important, which we will see when we go inside. But before that, I wanted to start with introducing the art market. What is it, art market? The art market, market. This is the first question that I kept being asked at me. How big is this art market? What is this art market? So what you're seeing now is actually a bodhisattva from northern Orissa, Pala, Bangladesh border. I'm showing you this is because it created a record a few years back as the most expensive artifact that was auctioned out. And it was auctioned out at that incredible price because it had splendid provenance. So since we are talking to the legal community, we will also dwell a bit into what this provenance is. But in short, Thai Patram. So it had impeccable Thai Patram. And because of that, I'm going to show you how much it was sold for. So it sold for $24 million. So இன்னைக்கு ரேட்ல you multiply that by 72, I think. This was the price that a single artifact obtained in an open auction. There are a couple of points that you need to consider in this. One, the object has been reduced to a showpiece curio. From being a living god, it has been reduced to a showpiece curio. It has been auctioned as a commodity. So a god has been reduced to a commodity, and அதாவது ஒரு பகிரங்கமான ஏலத்தில் விடப்பட்ட அவலத்தை, even though the price seems incredibly huge, I don't even know how many crores that works out to, but for us and for me particularly, God is priceless. To commoditize it is what is actually creating the need for this market. And I'm going to show you a little more about this very, very gray market. This is the roots of the trade. Usually out of India, the stuff is sent to Hong Kong. And from Hong Kong, it goes into what is called the main markets of Zurich in Switzerland, London and New York. They look at us, India, Italy, Cambodia, we are all looked at as source nations. Though நம்மலாம் ஒரு mining ore மாதிரி antiquities businessல we are all treated, are called a source nation. So நம்ம எடுக்க குறையாத செல்வம், அறிவு செல்வம்ன்ற மாதிரி குறையாத செல்வம் antiquities, we are treated as a source nation where these markets value our gods. How much is the valuation? Again, as I said, this is a white market, black market லாம் கிடையாது. இது வந்து ஒரு gray market. It is flying under the radar. There is no policing. Nobody knows this value. This is all come from surveys. They never declare anything. So all over you're looked at is a survey. So in 2015, the total value of art market is $38 million out of a study and not any documented fact. இதுல வந்து split பாத்தீங்கன்னா usual culprits, the colonial, erstwhile colonial powers, UK is still there, 28.5%. The new thieves, America, 30%. The emerging thieves, China, 18%. அப்புறம் மத்ததெல்லாம் European countries are there. So this is a spread of the rich and the famous buying our art. So எல்லா கனவாளிகளும் அப்படி குட்டம் அப்படி போட்டோம்னா, so but one thing about China buy only Chinese goods இந்த இடத்துல மட்டும். So மத்ததெல்லாம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா நம்ம goes basically into erstwhile colonial powers and America. This is just American antiquities data. I'm not going to burden you with a lot of data, but just to show you that it is going up and it's going up in a huge way. But what I want to focus now is this very particular infographic. Something happened in 2007. So in the வெவ்வேறு color கோடுகள்லாம் ஒரு நாடு, so African, pre-Columbian, Islamic, but the green also is very important. 2007, almost all the markets except Islamic art went through a big dip. So what caused this dip? Not many people realize. In the time varaikkum, the Americans and Europeans never cared about the illicit trade in antiquities. அவங்களுக்கு வந்து ஏதோ செல்ல கடத்துறாங்க, நம்மலாம் இதுக்கு போய் என்னத்த. So they were more interested in basically contraband, drugs. They were more interested. They never focused on illicit trafficking of antiquities in a big way. So சும்மா ஒரு photo op இருக்கும், முடிச்சிட்டு போயிடும். But something happened in 2007 that changed their focus, and that's more awareness, and I'll show you what exactly happened. But is it thus Vijay who is talking about the back market in antiquities? This was a study conducted by a leading organization in the US that is influencing policy, where archaeologists were interviewed and said 97% said looting happens, 89% happens in every country, 80% almost said, yes, I have seen looting. ரெண்டாவது black market இருக்கா? ஆமா இருக்கு. Archaeologists agreed that way that black market exists. 99%. அதாவது almost ஒட்டுமொத்தமா everybody agrees that there is a black market for antiquities. சரி, இதெல்லாம் பேசிட்டு இருக்கும்போது first thing they throw, உங்க customs, உங்க borders are not secure. Give you an example in the Subhash Kapoor case. They went out as brassware, went out as garden furniture. So my question to customs in America and Europe, சரி எங்க ஆளுங்க தான் காசு வாங்கி விட்டாங்க, நீங்க என்னடா பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தீங்க? You are supposed to have these fantastic border protection, latest and high-tech scanners, advanced cargo declarations and all that, but you also let these $20 million worth of stuff in a container, which was declared as antiquity. So for example, யாராவது துப்பாக்கியோ பாம்போ செலவு பண்ணும்போது அது பாம்புன்னு manifest பண்ண மாட்டான். So obviously the border control is not just responsibility of the third world countries. I'm just rushing out. This was what happened that changed public perception. What you're seeing is actually satellite imagery of Desh control sites, and before after. இது வந்து இப்போ இந்த இதெல்லாம் மாதிரி என்ன சொல்றது, weight குறைச்ச மாதிரி. இது what you're seeing here is before and after. Pochmark. It's not some disease that has come on the land. It is actually illicit digging. So what you're seeing here is in 2011, before the occupation. This is after, and all these small dots you're seeing is actually illicit digging for artifacts in ISIS controlled territory. ISIS was basically giving out digging licenses to people to dig for antiquities in their occupied territory, and it was between number 3 and number 5 in the list of income earners. இதெல்லாம் வந்ததுக்கு அப்புறம் they realized that yes, there is a problem இருக்கு, there is money in antiquities, but what happened to all these that were dug up? இதெல்லாம் மார்க்கெட்டுக்கே வரல. ஈராக் சிரியால இருந்து டிக் பண்ண இவ்ளோ டிகிங் பண்றாங்க. This is just one portion that you're seeing. Where did all these artifacts grow? இதுக்கு அப்புறம் அது ஒரு கேள்வி இருக்கும்போது they started talking about how the திருடுறவனுக்கு அந்த பணம் வந்து எப்படி வருது அதெல்லாம் பேசும்போது the money doesn't come through the normal channels, it goes through hawala. அதுக்கப்புறம் you have money laundering, transnational crime. So that's when the US initially started taking an advanced interest in combating illicit trafficking of crimes. Just to put you a graphic, so this was a graphic that was presented to the US Senate hearing, where they said இப்போ ஒரு பாம் பண்ணனும்னா ஒரு துப்பாக்கி வேணா இவ்வளவு செலவாகும், ஒரு ஆர்டிஃபேக்ட் சேல்ஸ்ல எவ்வளவு கிடைக்கும். So basically this was a graphic that showed them the seriousness of the problem, saying that if you close your eye to your borders to bring in antiquities, இப்போ கம்போடியால இருந்தோ இந்தியால இருந்தோ கொண்டு வரவங்க, they don't pick and choose. சிரியால இருந்து ஈராக்ல இருந்து, it's the same network that brings in all the stuff. So that's when the border control took the topic of illicit trafficking very seriously. So I'll now come to the second question that we are talking about. What happens to all these amazing dug up artifacts? Yeah, market le innu varala. So I'll give you an example. There was a dealer in called Robin Shimes in UK. He was arrested in 2012 for antiquities related issues, and he went behind bars. Usually, even in the West, they don't serve large sentences. In fact, in America, the last guy who served any sentence for illicit trafficking antiquities was 2002 Schulz-Naurale. Robin Shimes was in behind bars for 4 months. But in 2014, the Italian Antiquities Division, which is called the Cadbury Art Squad, of which we're going to talk much more later, raided a free port in the Swiss free port of Geneva. In a single room that was unlocked, that was locked for 30 years, they found $30 million worth of Italian antiquities freshly dug out. அதாவது ஒரு ரூம், அந்த இதுல சினிமால சொல்ற 30 வருஷமா அந்த ஸ்டோரேஜ் லாக்கர் was never opened, and it had $20 million worth of Italian antiquities. This in the art market terms is called fencing. அதாவது they put it in a room till the public memory of that object is gone, and then they bring it out for sale. நம்ம ஊர்லலாம் ஒளிச்சு வச்சுட்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் ஒரு the heat goes out, they bring out. The art market's pocket is so big that they can actually fence objects for such a long 3 decades. Sometimes they fence objects. So it's very, very important to note when we talk about laws and regulations, we'll come to that. But this is not just the only free port. World over, there are 55 such free ports that have come up. What happened post this find? Only the Swiss free port said they will appoint a nodal agency, an audit firm, to document what is coming in. Just to give you a brief about free ports, there will be no record, no customs declaration. You can basically move in, move out, whatever you want. After Panama Papers, people don't want, the rich and famous don't want to keep their money in the banks. So all you have to do, you have to pay somebody, say 30 million, you just move a painting from your locker to his locker, the payment is made, no records exist. So the Swiss free port basically has appointed an audit firm that will just keep a record, not retrospective and not public domain. என்ன உள்ள வருதுன்னு இனிமே நாங்க நோட் பண்ணி வச்சுப்போம்னு சொல்லிருக்காங்க. This is only in the Swiss report. The rest of it, nobody knows what happened. All that we are talking is on the amounts that you have seen so far is public auctions. So இதுல வந்து the dark blue and art fair. The light blue you see is growing, private sales. So this is what is now the modus operandi. யார் வாங்குறா யார் விற்கிறானே தெரியாது. Most of it ஒரு private club மாதிரி the cabal will invite them to a big house in an estate. They will be shown the artwork. So no catalogs will be printed. So this is another big problem which we cannot currently tackle. Cherry. What is happening to our gods? So these are a few pictures that I wanted to disturb you. So as I said, this first initial session is going to be a disturbing session. This is actually an auction that is happening in a dealer. In fact, I'll tell you the dealer's name is Subhash Kapoor's brother's outfit in New York. 2 years ago. So here you see our gods, Trimeni. Trimeni, of course, you know what Trimeni is, bodies of God, being reduced to being that, where people are consuming alcohol, posing in front of it, and the collecting lobby they collect it as a fetish, right? So the collect பண்ணி எங்க வைக்கறாங்க, so you can actually see what is happening. Lining swimming pools. So கோவில் கருவறை சுற்றியும் கோஷ்டத்திலும் இருந்த சிற்பங்கள் are being reduced to இந்த அவலம். So this is what I wanted you to see, and this has happened because we have not taken care of our gods. And how have you not taken care of the gods is coming from a colonial fetish. So colonial time they feel that the victors basically take back like war trophies, and the fetish is still there. So that's why a lot of antiquities are still being acquired in the erstwhile colonial powers. I'll give you a few examples. This is actually a very, very rare Nataraja that was found when the Danish collector in Trankebar was digging for his fort extension. Now, the Denmark, it is in the Royal Prince collection. He actually our திரும்பி போகும்போது எடுத்துட்டு போயிட்டார். But what is interesting is பக்கத்திலேயே மாச்சலவண்ணாதர் கோயில் இருக்கு. But if you actually see the original Danish record today, it says Peter Anker, the then Danish collector, paid and bought it from the locals தான் இருக்கு narrative. But actual Danish records எடுத்து பார்த்தாக்க என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னா, he gave them a bag of rice. ஆமா, ஒரு மூட்டை அரிசிக்கு 30 items, அதாவது about 16 bronzes and other puja items were taken by the Dora. And obviously they were buried under the ground. The Danish colony was only a trading license. They had no rights to property buried underneath. And basically he also writes that he told the local priest, asked for, cried to give the gods back to him. He said, the gods have lost power. அவங்க கீழே மண்ணில் இது பரி பண்ணனால பவர் போயிடுச்சு. பக்கத்தில் யாராவது பெரிய கோயில் கட்டினாதான் இது பவர் திரும்பி வரும். கோயில் கட்டுறதுக்கு உங்ககிட்டலாம் காசு இல்லை, நான் எடுத்து போறேன், எடுத்து போயிட்டார். But what is interesting is we get only a few photographs of these bronzes. But அது கூட இந்த பூஜை சாமான்ல we don't even have good photographs. We only have these fantastic eye copy photographs. And this gentleman basically wrote that he bought it. So the narrative at least has to change. He bought it for exactly that, donating rice and betel nut to the relevant piece. The another case which recently came up, another friend of us pointed this out to one of our volunteers, pointed it out. This is in Coimbatore. This is in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. This was bequeathed by Lord Curzon. Lord Curzon was the Viceroy, His Excellency Viceroy of India. But what is interesting is this was from a temple in Coimbatore, Kottaimedu பக்கத்துல இருக்கிற சிவன் கோயில். In the Vishnu Koil, in this entire thing was, of course, buried hoards is an entire chapter in my book. I'm not trying to sell my book, but please read it. During the Islamic invasion of 1314, a lot of these ceremonies were buried for safety because otherwise they'd be melted and broken. Anna, most likely the people were killed protecting their secrets where it was buried, or they left and they never were allowed to come back. So in the மாதிரி திருமேனிகள் இன்னைக்கும் பாத்தீங்கன்னா every week we get a lot of such buried bronzes coming up. Every month we get news. But this bronze was buried till around the late 19th century. அப்ப என்னது வெள்ளக்காரன் வந்து around 1875 he comes out with a மானியம். கோயில்ல சிலை இருந்தா கொண்டு வந்து காட்டு, உனக்கு மானியம் கிடைக்கும். அப்போ இந்த விஷ்ணு கோயில் ஒரு பூஜாரி வந்து என்னடா பண்றது, எங்கிட்ட சிலை இல்லையானோடனே பக்கத்துல இருக்கிற சிவன் கோயில்ல இருக்கிற முருகர் சிலைக்கு கையில வந்து சங்கு சக்கரத்தை அடிச்சு கொடுத்து விஷ்ணுவன் காமிச்சு மானியத்தை வாங்கிடுறாங்க. அதுக்கப்புறம் they managed to dig, ஒரு பக்கத்துல தென்னமரம் நட்டுறதுக்கு தோணுனா விஷ்ணு கடிச்சிட்டாரு. சரி, அதனால திருநெல் தேல் கொட்டணமாச்சு, they couldn't say. But the Dharmagata goes and bids 1000 ரூபா அந்த காலத்துல he bids for this bronze. The வெள்ளக்காரன் வந்து I don't know for what reason they put it on an open bidding, because at that time the Treasure Trove Act had already come into place. The government could have acquired it, but for some reason the reference actually பாத்தீங்கன்னா it says it was put up for an open auction. கோழுக்கிழாரோட 1949 bookல இருக்கு. But what it says is the government acquired it, outbidding the Dharmagata's 1000 rupee bid. அதுக்கப்புறம் அது எப்படி லார்ட் கர்சனுக்கு போய் செஞ்சது, மேபி லார்ட் கர்சன் வாஸ் பிட்டிங், we don't know. So we have to find out what has happened. So just to give you examples, there are இது வந்து உங்களுக்கு லீகலா எடுத்துன்னு போனாங்கன்னு சொல்லிட்டு இருக்காங்க. But again you know who will bid against Dora. So இது வந்து காளஹஸ்தி கோயில்ல இருக்கிற one of the very rare portrait bronzes of Kolothunga. It went missing in the 1930s. It's still not come out. On why I want to highlight this is, once these are going into private hands, They disappear. Now it's almost 90 years. Nobody has seen this fantastic and only unique bronze. So similarly, his consort, again missing from the same temple. Sometimes we don't realize that. So just give you, I'll show you two examples. So in the Rama group, obviously you can see, but if you see Hanumar, Sita and Rama are and Lakshmana. So if for 2 seconds, if you wait and see, you will realize that the Lakshmana is a later replacement. It's not of the same hand. So Ramaru Sita is original Chola bronze. The Lakshmana is a much later work. So let's see if we can do another test. So it's very clear. The Ramar is original, Sita is much later. So in the Mari, there are a lot of such cases that come up. And the question is, where are the originals? Not only that, what happens to these originals? This is actually a lot of people don't know. That's problem. So this is an aspect of Shiva, as you can see from the Maru on his right hand. Actually, it should have been left hand. The photo is transposed. So he's actually Adhikaranandi. But what happened is the dealer who sold it sold the consort out to the Museum of Fine Arts, Houston, without showing the Adhikaranandi. So in the Amma Parvati Intana, she's actually Surasa, the consort of Adhikaranandi, but she is now displayed in the Houston Museum as Parvati. So actually, in the Mari Rendithi, Ore piece of Kamchandana, he could have been Surasa. So not only are our gods are being kidnapped or sold and smuggled, even they are now losing their identities and they are sold in a different way. So this has been not happening now and then. It's been happening for a long time. It's been on and on for, we can actually go and, this is from the Kanja Kailasanatha temple. It was sold for almost $1 million. There's another Vishnu that was sold for, this is a Pallava period Vishnu. So in the Nare auctions, this fantastic Vijayanagara Parvati was sold for almost $3 million. So these are all the valuations that come up, and all of these find, unfortunately, they find, they land up in museums. But museum visitors never once ask the question, so for example, this Varaha, beautiful Varaha from Madhya Pradesh, nobody asks the question, what has happened to its leg? So I just want to show you what's happened. This is again from the site of Chandraketugar. Inniki Variki Metropolitan Museum, even if a Kapoor has been arrested, gift of Subhash Kapoor in honor of his daughter. This is the first exhibit in the Metropolitan Museum's collection. Anyway, we will go, and Chandraketugar was a site that was only excavated in 1968. And the 1968 is also important, which we will see in a while. This is Devgar பக்கத்துல இருக்கிற ஒரு சின்ன ஹில்லாக்ல இருந்த வராகர். So about 18 years ago, the locals heard some noise late in the evening. By the time they went, this was what happened. The robbers are actually cut off. Because it's anchored to the base, it's very heavy. They couldn't take it out. So every time you go to a museum, you see an object that's without his hands or legs. This is what is the cause of it. And we can quote you many examples. This is from the Sun Temple site in Umri. So the robbers have actually taken off the head. So in the Talaye Vetti, so this is out on sale on separate platforms. So இதுக்கு எல்லாத்துக்கும் நம்ம ப்ரொடக்ஷன் என்ன ஒரு நட்ராஜ் பூட்டு. ஸோ இந்த அளவுக்கு பணம் நம்மளுக்கு அகேன்ஸ்டா இருக்கு. Is this enough is the first question that we have to ask ourselves. The second question we have to ask ourselves is, do we recognize that we have a idol problem? Most of the time, the problem is we don't seem to even recognize that we have this issue. So I'm going to show you a few examples. It's a long deck, so please bear with me if I'm rushing a bit. I hope I want to show you a lot more. So I'm going to run to the second part of it. This is basically Tamil Nadu specific. So what you're going to see now is purely Tamil Nadu specific. So this was a headline that came out in 1985, and it's very clear. It talks about a particular sculpture. So this is not a in the time on the problem. So this 1,000 ancient Hindu idol stolen is all up. Every time we have the same issues. And this is not me saying, this is the CAG report of 2013. CAG report, we all look at only the one CAG report. Yes, there is a CAG report on the ASA as well. And I'm just going to show you too many things, just one thing. I want you to look at the last part out here. Let's see if I have can zoom in for you. So I just want to focus on this. So from 1976 to 2001, India brought back 19 சிலைகள். That's it, 19. And this 1976 is important. 2001 to when this report came out, 2013, we bought back zero. Why this 2001 is shown separately, I'll show you. So மொத்தமா 19 சிலைகள் வந்தது. அந்த சிலைகள்ல என்னெல்லாம் வந்ததுன்றதுக்கு போறதுக்கு முன்னாடி I want to highlight this famous case. This is one of the reasons why I wrote the book on Kapoor. So this was a investigative report by Peter Watson, a British BBC journalist. And this book is still available. It's a beautiful book available on Amazon. Please buy it if you want to read about. So this book focuses predominantly on how Sotheby's and auction house colluded actively with robbers in smuggling out Italian antiquities via Switzerland, selling it in London. But there is one chapter that is for India. And what is shocking in this, it says that Sotheby's executives used to come on recce trips, business trips, TAB file panni. They used to come, go out with our own art experts, art scholars, and smugglers, pick and choose the best objects for looting. So this was an organized industrial scale, targeted looting. Random the guys would pick what that would sell, and then they will go back to London, wait for the object to be stolen and sent out. After this book was released, he named actually 3 networks in India. In-camera interviews were done. So one of it I'll just explain to you. This was a Varaha from a site called Atru. This was almost 5 quintals. It was so big that they actually tied a steel chain to its leg and yanked it to a truck and pulled it to breaking it at its leg. So in the kaal vadanje poirukku. And it is now being found in a dealer in Switzerland. So when India asked for the dealer to return back after going after one of the robbers named in Peter Watson's book, அவர் வந்து எங்கிட்ட 3 இருக்கு, எது உங்களுதுன்னு சொல்லுங்கன்னு சொல்லிட்டார். ஸோ 3த்தையும் கேட்டிருக்கணும், but till date it's not come back. The work is still on to get this Varaha back. But what is interesting is Sotheby's actually closed down the London office, moved everything to New York. It sacked the 2 guys that were named in the expose by Peter Watson, but India never took any action against Sotheby's, nor did we take any action against these 2. The 2 of them immediately opened their own antique shop in London. Not only that, the India guy, the main smuggler's name is Vaman Ghia. His farmhouse was raided in Delhi. It yielded 840 antiquities, of which 400 were certified as antiquities. So in the மண்லேந்து பறிச்சு வச்சு ஃபார்ம் ஹவுஸ்லேருந்து வரது வந்து it happens every time. But what is interesting is he is supposed to have confessed to selling about 10,000 works of Indian art via Sotheby's and via his 4 named companies in Switzerland. Nothing happened. Not even a single idol came back connected to the Vaman Ghia. I'm just going to show you this one Natesa that was taken from a temple in Rajasthan. The robbers actually made a replica. So you can see the fake. So they kept the fake on the road and they sent out the original, exported out. The police actually caught this and they said, oh, we have stopped the export, but this was already out. When Vaman was arrested in 2003 by Rajasthan police, the dealer who bought it in London developed cold feet. So he actually left it at the embassy's door. It is still there in the Indian High Commission in London since 2003, and Vaman was acquitted in 2013 for want of evidence, because not even one of the so-called 10,000, including this Natesa, did not come back. Vaman is a free man now. Sorry, Tamil Nadu korum. So we all know who these are. So Tamil Nadu பொறுத்த வரைக்கும், a lot of people think about 2 big Natarajas, and a lot of people think it is the greatest moment in restitution cases of Indian artifacts. So one is the Pattur Nataraja, one is the Sivapuram Nataraja. Rendume very, very often quoted cases. So I'm going to talk to you about the famous London Nataraja case, Pattur Nataraja. A lot of water is flown under the bridge, how it was bought back. So what is not known is that this Nataraja was actually bought by a construction company in Canada called Bumper Trading Corporation. It was sent, so obviously Pattur Nataraja was a buried hoard. They sent, it was sold to Bumper Trading Corporation. Bumper Trading Corporation sent it to London for cleaning. Clean பண்ணும்போது they found mud, மண்ணெல்லாம் ஒட்டி இருக்கு, buried hoard மாதிரி இருக்குன்னு they warned Scotland Yard. Metropolitan Police basically came in, investigated, they seized the object. அதுக்கப்புறம் case நிறைய போச்சு, where it's very important judgment. There was also a lot of stuff on termites. There's buried, termites gave proof. அதெல்லாம் நிறைய இருக்கு, you can read about it. But what is interesting is the Nataraja came back, but no action was taken against Bumper Trading Corporation. What is interesting is in 2014, Bumper Trading Corporation gave a donation of over 240 Indian antiquities, including bronzes, to the Glenbow Museum in Calgary. So far, nobody has even known how Bumper Trading Corporation acquired any of these idols. So, ஒரே ஒரு சிலை, ஒரு photo op, ஒரு நடராஜா திரும்பி வந்துட்டாரு, we are all happy. So, the second case, again, a big victory that is being tom-tommed is Sivapuram Nataraja. In fact, my paper on this is available on Academia, you can look at it. Sivapuram Nataraja was even more funnier case. 1956, 6 idols were dug up. ஒரு நடராஜர், ஒரு சம்பந்தர், ஒரு சோமஸ்கந்தர், ஒரு பிள்ளையார், 2 அம்மன். இந்த 6 சிலைகளும் were given to the temple by the VOO, the collector. The temple authorities gave it to Sthapati to clean. Our clean பண்ணும்போது he made fakes அந்த வருஷத்திலே, and Tilakar was basically the Sthapati, and he gave the original to a dealer in Bombay, and the temple displayed the fakes from 1957 to 1963 when a British Museum curator, Douglas Barrett, came. அவர் வந்து இந்த புக் எழுதுறேன், அந்த கிடைச்ச சிலைகளை பார்க்கணும், பார்த்துட்டு இதெல்லாம் ஃபேக்குன்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒரிஜினல் பாம்பேல ஒரு டீலர்ட்ட இருக்குன்னு சொல்லிட்டு போயிட்டார். By the time between 1963, by the time we took action, the idol was sold by the dealer Lansdane in Bombay to one of the richest person in the world through another collector called Bowman. Norton Simon bought it for $1 million. அவன் வந்து அவனை கேட்கும்போது, hell yes, I know it's smuggled, so what, அப்படிதான் பதில் சொன்னான். But what is interesting is we still recovered only the Nataraja. There is no news of the remaining idols. And how we recovered it was not a court case. We decided to settle out of court. So India signed an out-of-court settlement with Norton Simon, which allowed Norton Simon to keep this Nataraja in a public museum in America, not in his museum, in a public museum in America for 10 years, after which it will come back. No compensation will be made. Norton Simon will not get back his $1 million. So everybody is happy, and this is how the public opinion rests. But what is interesting is Norton Simon made this $1 million from the dealer who he bought it from. Not only that, the second line in the out-of-court settlement allowed Norton Simon to buy any item of Indian art for a period of 1 year. Indian government actually signed the disclosure scheme, Mari, that as long as the object is out of India, we will not ask any questions. So between 1972, when this out-of-court settlement was signed, and 1974, Norton Simon brought in 800 items of Indian art into his collection, along with 240 bronzes. அதுல ஒரு so இது எவ்வளவு இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்னா, there's a WikiLeaks page on the Sivapuram Nataraja. What is interesting is the British King and Queen visited Madras in the 1960. This was a commemorative book that was launched. Again, and the book on the backside is the Sivapuram Nataraja. So what happened was it was already stolen, and the guy who wrote this book is Lansdane, who was actually initially arrested for stealing this Nataraja. Not only that, Lansdane died in Bombay in 2012. A great collector. Everything was forgotten about his deal. But what is interesting is the untold story. So P.R. Srinivasan book, இன்னைக்கு நீங்க மெட்ராஸ் மியூசியம் போனா கிடைக்கும், 270 ரூபாய் மெட்ராஸ் மியூசியம்ல. It actually has photographs of this Somaskanda that was part of the same Sivapuram loot, buried hoard, and this is currently on display in the Norton Simon Museum with the provenance plate. We have matched it, and with the provenance plate saying Sivapuram, acquisition year 1972. And there are a whole lot of this. So in all likelihood, Norton Simon purchased all the 6 bronzes. The case is still open in India, but he still had the audacity, because of his out-of-court settlement, he accessioned this bronze in 1972. So this is all the list of bronzes he acquired during that period. So this is another case where India can still seek for its return, understand why they signed the second. So this is the third Nataraja. Not many people know, so I'm going to talk about this Nataraja. This is the Nataraja, very beautiful work, and what you're seeing, the chain and the bell is part of the original cast. We're not going to go into the beauty of Chola bronzes, that will take another hour, but I'm just going to talk about this Nataraja. This was from the Tiruvelvikudi temple, and it was sold via London, a very prominent auction house, art dealer sold it from London to the Kimball Museum in America. He came back, and here is the statue before it was stolen from the temple in Tiruvelvikudi. Because what is interesting is this very startling information. There is a published report in India today which talks about officers from Tamil Nadu police and the priest going to London. They list the temple names, Sambaranar Koil ellam pono. They actually raided the dealership. They found 240 Indian icons and seized it. They went to the guy's house and they got 41 idols. So total they seized 281 Indian idols. That's interesting. The priest was asked, "How do you know this bronze?" He said, "Like a mother would know her baby. I have taken care of this bronze. Every morning I have bathed her, I am fed him. And the Mari I can identify him solely. எல்லாத்தையும் பண்ணிட்டு இந்த 280 ஒரு சிலைகளும் என்ன நடந்ததுன்னு தெரியல. So there is no listing of this case in India. There is no listing of this file in Scotland Yard, except for this India Today article. Nobody knows what happened to this 281. 1985ல இவ அங்கேருந்து எப்படி போனாங்க அதெல்லாமே ரெக்கார்ட் இருக்கணும். There is no record. And what is interesting is this was the gallery, Emerald Gallery. The raid oda vishayame has been erased. And all this work is there. The Tiruvelvikudi Natarajar only came back. The America அவங்க வித்த ஒரு சிலை மட்டும் திரும்பி வந்தது. மற்ற சிலைகள் எல்லாமே என்ன நடந்ததுன்னு தெரியல. அப்பவே again just an interesting point since we have department people here. This is a news 34,000 temples in direct control. Tamil Nadu is naturally affected. So if you go in 1984, they say this year we plan to begin radiographing and holographing the icons so the identity can be definitely proved. So 1984 there has been a commitment given by the department to document it, which we will talk about in a while. We are going to talk about this famous group that is in Lakma. What is interesting in this Lakma is a very intact Rajamannar group. We never see it in India. But what is interesting is you were a very reputed Indian scholar. India வேலை கிடைக்கல, so he went it. What he is talking about is what we have to see. He wanted to start. He started a job in Lakma. அப்போ அங்க ஒரு சோலா பிரான்ஸ் கூட இல்லைன்னு அவருக்கு வருத்தப்பட்டு he talked to a dealer, say Lakmala one day was lamenting the omission to Bobby of not even having a chola bronze, and Bobby said okay, that can be corrected. The next day morning, abracabra, on the table was this beautiful 4 bronzes and of Krishna the cowherd, 2 spouses, and his Learjet Garuda. What is the usual? They had the usual accretions from being buried in the ground. So this is actually a documented another statement saying they were a buried hoard. But we have not followed up, so it is still in the Lakma, and it clearly says we were cleaned later, and they had fantastic patination, which we will see later. So in the mari nare cases are there. This is again a case where Buddha Sakyamuni was found with accreditation. So he says, I cleaned up a spectacular bronze that was in auction, heavily encrusted with accretions. அது நாகப்பட்டினம் புத்தா. நம்ம இந்த மாதிரி கேஸ் நல்ல கேஸ் எல்லாம் விட்டுட்டு I'm just going to show you an example. I know this is quite controversial, but I wanted to show you this. So there was this big hullabaloo about a stolen Sembian Badevi traced to the Freer Gallery. And it was said that it was done 30 to 40 years ago. But what is interesting is in the case of even if somebody had looked at the basic provenance paperwork in the Freer Gallery, this bronze entered the museum in 1929. So in the case accepted aayirukadu. So yes, it was from Tamil Nadu, but it left in well before 1929, or at least not after 1929. So we need to be careful when we lodge restitution claims. இதே மாதிரி நிறைய media jugglery happens. So this is another case wherein Sanjeevi Ashokan, who was a very prominent supplier of Subhash Kapoor, in the news evaded cops for 22 years. So this was in 2018 March news. But actually Sanjeevi was caught in 2009. elusive smuggler. So public seem to have very short memories, and we will. So that's the sad part. Uh, Shriram, hope I'm not become too fast or elaborate. Virikum, okay, wa?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Just go ahead, whichever is a pace that's comfortable to you.
Okay. So since we are talking with a lot of legal brains, I thought I'll do a small portion of this on international laws and regulations. So, so the previous one is to show you that yes, we have been having this problem, and it is not a problem that is going to go away without action. I'll show you this example. This is a paper that was published in the United Nations Defense Research Institute by CBI India and Italy in 1976. And what is interesting is at that time, the law enforcement in India was actually compiling data of art theft from archaeological sites. And what you're state-wise. So they had state-wise reports. What you're seeing here is actually state-wise 1969, 1970, 1972. And there you see, there you see Tamil Nadu is the biggest. Every year they were losing about 49 to 50. This is actually, there is a footnote that we need to, this is reported theft. So under timely, these thefts were happening. Not only that, this is the modality. So ulla punda, theft, burglary, sculpture. So in the alavukku detailed, they were collecting information, but we don't know now because nowadays nobody seems to have such data. So what happened to these data? To such an extent, Madras report is following a series of theft idle in Tamil Nadu. State government took a special study of the problem. A report was published in 1967. So அதில் என்ன சொல்லுதுன்னா தமிழ்நாட்டிலேருந்து பாண்டிச்சேரி வழியா போகுதுன்னு. We still see this Pondicherry route being active. Okay, because of why was this report made ready was because India and Italy were actually championing UNESCO to come out with an international regulation. So previously there was always regulation. All of you would have seen Monuments Men, the big movie. So wartime, the production of monuments was gaining importance, but during peacetime, there was no proper forum to address theft of cultural property. And India and Italy being that time considered big source nations, and there was a rampant problem of smuggling of antiquities, some via the diplomatic box, some via whatever you want to call it. So UNESCO was being bombarded by India and Italy, and they came up with this convention. So we are going to see two major conventions. I'll leave the smaller ones. The UNESCO Convention of 1970 and the UNDROID Convention, which India has not signed, and we'll see reasons for that. In case people who are interested to look up about them, please read about it. So this is the it's a long word, the Convention on the mean of prohibiting and preventing the illicit import, export, and transfer of ownership of cultural property. This is the 1970 statute, and this is something that is currently widely used for restitution cases, but there are a few things that we have to go into. I'm not going to go into, don't get worried about all this. The first thing is, what I want to show you this is, it takes care of any art, sculpture in any material, archaeological excavations, discoveries it covers, and it also says anything over 100 years old. So normally there are a lot of complaints that 100 வருஷத்துக்கு மேல is wrong. The UNESCO itself considers anything over 100 years. So India just followed the UN statute for from Article 1. So there are a lot of things on Article 2. So maybe I will share this presentation later, but I just wanted to show you the main pillars. So there are three main pillars of this convention. One are preventive measures. Restitution provisions, of course, are very important in international cooperation. So we look at the preventive measures, which sadly India did not take up in a big way. The first preventive measure is, as per the UN statute, every country has to regulate a legislation. The UN statute cannot work in isolation. Every country must have its own internal antiquity smuggling, anti-smuggling law. So India passed this Antiquities and Treasure Stores Act in 1972. So that is done. So that point is done, but you have to take it with, again, to know that it was not just in 1970. அதுக்கு முன்னாடி Ancient Monuments Preservation Act, Treasure Trove Act 1878, and there are still some more. If you want to go back from 1810, the Bengal Society regulation, Madras regulations, everything has been there. But majority we have to cover the Indian Treasure Trove Act, the Antiquities Monuments Preservation Act 1904, Export Control Act 1947, and of course the 1972, which was signed in 1977. So இத்தனை laws India கிட்ட இருக்கு. So what we have to keep in mind is it is not a holy grail. அதாவது 1970க்கு முன்னாடி திருடு போனது, it doesn't mean it is somehow sacrosanct, touch பண்ண முடியாது. I'll show you an example where we have succeeded in that. But இதெல்லாம் நம்ம பண்ணல. என்னெல்லாம் பண்ணல அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கு இது example. It says anybody who signed the UN convention established national services for production of cultural heritage, பண்ணல. Promote museums and libraries and archives, okay, archives is nil. Established national inventories, even state inventories have not come. Code of conduct for dealers, we can say it is covered under the Antiquities Act. அதுக்கப்புறம் system of export certificate, I just wrote an article 2 weeks ago in Express if you want to see the loopholes in it. Specialized police and customs forces. This has happened only in Tamil Nadu where we have the idle wing. The second pillar, we just need to spend a little more time on restitution. To make it very simple, it says if you bought it and if the state can prove it left after 1970, there is no need for you to go to court. The receiver should return it. If he is an innocent purchaser, then you might consider compensation. If it's not able to demonstrate that he is an innocent purchaser, no compensation need to be paid. The main points you have to know, it's not retroactive. So if you want to use the convention, you can only do it in 1970 kapram. Just compensation is again a very unclear one. You have to make it through diplomatic channels. And lastly, it applies only to inventoried objects. That means you should have proof that it was in your country. A photographic archive makes you can't make arguments like Chola bronze can only made in Tamil Nadu. Where else can it be? Why are you asking for photographic evidence? If you use the UN statute, that argument cannot work. You need to show proof. At the national level, I'm just going to show the UNDROID one quietly. UNDROID came up to shut out some of the loopholes of the UN statute, but it's not very widely adopted. UNDROID doesn't need you to implement any law. So it's self-executing. The UNDROID 1995, which has not been ratified by India. இதுல என்ன சொல்றது அப்படின்னாக்கா, the claimant in the UN statute can only be the state, whereas in UNDROID it can be individual also. So இப்போ உங்க வீட்ல இருந்து ஏதாவது antiquities, if you registered antiquity தொலைஞ்சு போனாலும், you don't need to go via the government. You can go through. So it's very, very clear demarcation. We can use the UN statute for private theft, but it is a slightly complicated process because who files the suit is again something that we need to do it. The burden of proof is good faith versus due diligence. Again, it's quotes, you guys are better bet. Nobody will agree what is good faith. So it's again very gray. So most countries are not signed it because of the limitations. The limitations basically are retrospective usage and also the time frame. So let's look at the time frame ratification. Okay, hold on. So the UNDROID basically covers archaeological excavation, so you don't need to show proof. But we'll look at time limits. It only gives you 30 years from the time theft has been reported for you to claim, and 3 years from which you can successfully claim. So there are statute of limitations, which I think is a little bit high for today's session. We will go into the legal terminology. Provenance, as I told you, is Thai Patram. What is considered good provenance? Again, it is something that we need museums to understand, dealers to understand. இப்போ நிறைய experts, art historians என்ன பண்றாங்க, unprovenanced antiquities, they put it in their academic paper. இது கேட்டா யாருக்கிட்ட இருந்து இருக்குன்னு சொல்ல மாட்டாங்க. They will say from a source in UK அப்படின்னு போட்டு publish பண்ணுவாங்க. Once you publish in a paper and nobody reads those papers, 10 years later it becomes good provenance. It's been published in portal. So basically this is another art market cabal that keeps going up. Don't call restitution as returns or gifts. Restitution means nobody can gift a property that is not his. திருட்டு பொருளை திருப்பி கொடுக்கிறது cannot be a gift. திருட்டு பொருள் வந்து he is only restituting back. So that is the international law. We are going to go into the Antiquity Act, and a lot of people want it to be revised. We will see some major problems. It's a very small act, very important act, very clear. இதுல மேஜர் ப்ரொவிஷன்ஸ் பாத்தீங்கன்னா there are problems and there are a lot of people who are throwing dirt at it. என்ன சொல்றாங்க, உங்க வீட்டுல 100 வருஷத்துக்கு மேல எந்த பொருள் இருந்தா கவர்மெண்ட் வந்து தூக்கி போயிடும். So far the government has not acquired since the time this act has come into play even a single artifact. So they can do it, but they have not enforced it. But if they do it, they have to pay you just compensation. If you're not okay with the compensation, you can actually go up at the level of a magistrate. You can go for arbitration. All that is there. So there is one major gateway check person in the Antiquities Act, which is the ASI. So if you have an artifact with you, which is over 100 years old, which you think is old, you have to take it to and register it with the ASI. And once it is registered, it becomes non-exportable. A registered antiquity cannot be exported out, but it can be freely traded within India. The only thing is you have to register the sale. So this is similar. For the automobile or Mofa Luna, you do that. And anybody who is in the business of selling and receiving artifacts has to be an authorized dealer. So this is the crux. Now, the claimants to the pitfalls of this Antiquity Act say that this Antiquity Act has to go. There should be no gatekeeper. There should be no ASI certification of antiquities. It should rather be a self-certification on a website. அதாவது நீங்க ரோட்ல போயிட்டு இருக்கீங்க, ரோட்ல ஒரு நடுக்கல்லோ ஒரு சதிக்கல்லோ இருக்கு, அதை நீங்க கூட்டு வந்து ஒரு போட்டோ எடுத்து கார்ல வச்சு வீட்டுக்கு வந்துட்டு you can upload on a website. Nobody sees it, it becomes yours. So basically what the new provisions what are being proposed will do is convert a public good into a private good, and then it says idunala there will be a big market in India, there will be no need to export out. So this is another problem. This again we have written many times. So I'm just wanting to focus what is it that are the stumbling blocks. One, there are a lot of people call about finder's fee. Other treasure trove act la 10 ரூபாய்க்கு மேல 100 வருஷத்து old artifact பூமி கடல இருந்தா it becomes to the government. A lot of people make fun of the 10 ரூபாய். அது வந்து 1878ல அவங்க 10 ரூபாய்னு போட்டாங்க. இப்போ வந்து it is not correct அப்படின்ற ஒரு வாதம் வந்துட்டு இருக்கு. இப்போ யூகேல வந்து there is a finder's fee. But you can read about the movable antiquity scheme. A whole host of metal detectors are there. கையில metal detectors வச்சு யூகே எல்லாம் போயிட்டு இருப்பான். யூகே is a country where first of all the economy is good to pay and buy antiquities from metal detectors. Number two, அங்க வந்து எங்கெல்லாம் எஸ்கேட் பண்ண முடியுமோ பண்ணிட்டாங்க. அங்க மேக்ஸிமம் உங்களுக்கு கிடைக்கிறது காயின் தான் கிடைக்கும். நம்ம ஒரு மாதிரி entire histories are there, and what you have to understand is if you allow treasure hunters to go and look for stuff saying that they can the government has to buy for it, அவன் என்ன பண்ணுவான், பானை ஓடுகள், கிராஃபிட்டி, ரைட்டிங் இருக்கிறதுலாம் செல்லபிள் இல்லை, தூக்கி போட்டுருவான். அவன் வந்து தங்கம் கிடைச்சாலோ இல்லை வேற ஏதாவது செல்லபிள் இருந்தால் மட்டும் இருப்பான். they will destroy contact, they don't disclose the site. Even last week there was a big case in UK saying the metal detectors basically forged where they find sites because they want to protect it. நான் இங்க இடத்துல கிடைச்சிருக்குன்னா நாளைக்கு ஒரு 10 பேர் போய் அங்க தோண்ட மாட்டானா அப்படின்றதுதான். There are a lot of issues. Bringing back antiquities, the last thing again on the Antiquities Act, it doesn't have a penalizing provision, which I would talk in the Q&A session. Most of it, when the prosecution happens only from the Customs Act if it's exported, or under IPC. IPC la housebreaking theft la podranga. Housebreaking theft la 6 varsham. So there's a lot more that can be done. So we will stop at this portion. And I will now, so how much are we on time? We are almost on the 1 hour mark. Can I take another 20 minutes?
Of course.
Okay. So again, I'm going to just show you a few cases that have been registered. So this is actually a critical view on role of experts. So in the expert, Dubriol, a lot of people talk about him as a great Pallava scholar, but Dubriol is actually an agent for a Chinese dealer out of Paris called C.T. Lu. So this is Kanjipuratla, I think there's an active case, Kaveri Pakam Yoginis. The Kaveri Pakam Yoginis were dispersed in 1926 onwards. This is the case, I think they have put 1950s la pona mari, but you have to understand that Dubriol actually sold to C.T. Lu via Pondicherry. So in the Selegalla, along with these, a lot of Natarajas were also sold. We are trying to see if we can access the C.T. Lu archives in Paris to see how they were exported out. So Dubriol na panaru, our Pallava scholar, he wrote two big books on Pallavas. and he gave this one broken door guardian to the Madras Museum. Rest of all are world over, being spread to all over the world, basically to finance his studies. Not only that, lot of Natarajas, கிட்டத்தட்ட ஒரு 18 Natarajas he has sold with no provenance other than C.T. Lewis works. We have another current scholar. This guy is actually a British Thai joint citizen. இவர் பேரு so Douglas Latchford and Emma Bunker. Bookலாம் எழுதிருக்காங்க Khmer antiquities பத்தி, but he is also an expert on Indian collector. So this is his house in Bangkok where he is posing with a Chola Somaskanda. This is actually from the due diligence report of which was submitted by the National Gallery of Australia to the Australian one, where we have our own Padma awardees giving expert letters to sculpture's quality and authenticity. So we have authenticity by the expert. So similarly, on the Nataraja that came back, a sought expert of a Chola bronze expert who supported the acquisition. So we have a lot of such work. This is another interesting case where this is again in the Freer Nataraja, where it talks about how so there are actually 3 Padma Shris in this where it says the curatorial justification is interesting to note. Who was Director General of Archaeology of India during those days examined the Shiva Nataraja and assures us that is not among those reported stolen by Tamil Nadu temple. So what authority, what basis these gentlemen have in giving these certificates, we don't know. This is a Chola ring that has come up for sale. Provenance is very interesting. This was in sale. Last owner, assistant epigraphist of the ASI Fort St. George. So in the Mari, nare problematic cases are there, which this is just to show you our struggles. This was a Brahma Brahmani that was stolen from Gujarat. This was actually next to Prime Minister Modi's village. We tracked it to a dealer in London, and ASI sent an expert to view this object. அவர் வந்து இது ரெண்டும் ஒரே சிலை இல்லைன்னு திருப்பி கொடுத்தார் சிலையா. ஸோ திஸ் எக்ஸ்பர்ட் கேவ் அ கான்ட்ரரி ஒப்பீனியன் டு ஆர் ஒப்பீனியன் அண்ட் இட் வாஸ் ஆக்சுவலி கிவன் பேக். ஸோ வி வெண்ட், ஒன் ஆஃப் த ரீசன்ஸ் ஹி மென்ஷன்ட் வாஸ் இந்த சிலையில இந்த விரல் இருக்குல்ல, இந்த விரல் ஒரிஜினல். ஸோ திஸ் இஸ் த ஒரிஜினல் ஏஎஸ்ஐ ஃபோட்டோகிராஃப். திஸ் வாஸ் டேக்கன் ஃப்ரம் an ஏஎஸ்ஐ சைட். இது வந்து when the dealer published it for sale. இந்த கை உடஞ்சிருக்கு, நான் ஒரிஜினல் சிலை கை இன்டாக்டா இருக்கு. The contrary were true, we would accept it. So finally we challenged this and we gave them the proof. So ASA appointed a special committee to oversee ours, and our opinion was, and this Brahma Brahmani came back to India in 2016 and is currently in the Puranakila Museum in London. I'm just going to show you a few more problems pertinent. So this is all expert opinion. So this was a chariot there that we tracked through a investigative report in Indian Times of India. This there was on sale in Bombay for 97 lakhs. And it had an expert saying it is 95 years old. Basically to beat the ASI guideline. So India there was on sale for 97 lakhs. So this is something that we need to look at, how we can take care of wooden vahanams and there, because this is another big area where thefts are happening. I'm not even looking at temple jewelry, but I want you to focus that this is another area where actively temple jewelry is coming out. There's one particular thing that I would like, if there is somebody from HRNCE there. So there's actually an expert opinion of the Sthapati. The website has since been changed, but the Sthapati's notice is still there. பழமையான ஆலயங்கள் சாஸ்திர முறைப்படி கட்டப்படவில்லை எனில், அதாவது சுவாமி பார்க்கும் திசை சரியா இல்லாத கர்ப்பகத்தை முதலவே அயாதி பிரகாரம் இல்லாத ஒவ்வொரு அதிஷ்டான ஸ்தம்பங்கள் முறைப்படி இல்லாத சாஸ்திர முறைப்படி இல்லாத உடைச்சி கட்டலான்னு given a recommendation by the Sthapati. Please take it off. It is against all basics of conservation. Pre-Agama temples, please leave them alone like that. You don't have to destroy them by making them conform to Agamas. This is on your website. This is another famous case which I wanted because this was very much in the news. This was the recent Nataraja that came back from the Art Gallery of South Australia. This we tracked it and we actually it was taken from the Kaldakurachi temple. But a lot of people, the media was not clear. Government tappan. So I'm just going to show you a very interesting letter for you to understand what happened. So let me show you the case. So this is actually the deaccessioning file. The museum deaccessioned this, and I'm going to show you how it happened. So following 2014, this is again 2014 is important because we're going to talk about the Nataraja in the coming cases. They revised it and they wanted to look at it. So we along with the reporter asked about this bronze in 2014. இந்த $500,000 வாங்கிருக்கீங்களே இந்த நடராஜர் இதுக்கு டாக்குமெண்டேஷன் இல்லையேன்னு கேட்டதுக்கு it was again bought from the same guys who split up from Sotheby's Forge and Lynch. இது கேட்டப்புறம் they sent their expert, அதாவது Australian sent their expert to the French Institute Pondicherry, and in September 2016 itself they identified a 1958 photograph that this was from the temple. So 2016 September Australia knew that this was a stolen item, but they quite vechirundanga. Adukaprom in 2017 one of their curators goes to the temple, asks the priest says ama idu tholanjadu. Adukaprom they ask a copy of the FIR, and then the FIR kadacha varaikum they still kept quiet. Even after the FIR came up, they kept quiet, and the reason why is very, very clear. They want to know when it was stolen. In 1982 third portion they gave it back, but they have been holding on to other items that are stolen prior to 19. So 1969 this Sirgali Samandar was stolen, and this is actually the French Institute Pondicherry photographs. Ana adha thirupi kodukka maatingranga. So this is actually published in a book that was released by Prime Minister Modi and Frans Montron. The bookline the image irukku. So we know that it was taken from Sirgali. So in the mari nariya cases we need to reopen. I'm just going to show you the intermediaries in art. So in the mari silegal, adhaadu worshipla irukka bronze buried hoda maati kaatradhu. Ena the buyers don't want இந்த மாதிரி சிலைகள், ஏன்னா இது பார்த்தாக்க கோயிலேருந்து எடுத்ததுன்னு தெரியும். அதனால the expert in London, he is now being charged, basically applies chemical patina to look chemicals to make it look like it is from a buried hoard. So அதுக்கப்புறம் இந்த மாதிரிலாம் பண்றதுக்கு there was restorers. So இந்த மாதிரி மண்ணில் கிடைச்ச சிலையை கிளீன் பண்ணி they made it look like this. So this is against every basic of conservation. இந்த மாதிரி சிலையை அவன் பார்த்த உடனே போலீஸ் கம்ப்ளைண்ட் கொடுத்துருக்கணும். அவர் கொடுக்காதனால he's being charged. The company's name is Forge and Lynch in London. So இந்த மாதிரி சிலைகள்லாம் நிறைய இருக்கு நம்ம நாட்டில். So why are we losing them was some of the slides. So I'm going to just take a minute of you to show you a little more of our success stories. So இதுதான் என் புக்கோட. So I'm just going to pitch my book now. My bookோட வில்லன் சுபாஷ் கபூர். இந்த பின்னாடி இருக்கிற 2 சிலைகளும் சுத்தமல்லியிலேருந்து திருடப்பட்ட சிலைகள். இந்த சிலைகளை வந்து கபூர் சிஸ்டர் has hidden them in New York. அந்த புக்கை படிச்சீங்கன்னா தெரியும். இன்னி வரைக்கும் இந்த 2 சிலைகளும் எங்க போச்சுன்னு தெரியல. She is out on a $10,000 bail. I'll just show you what the network is. இந்த தீர்த்தங்கரர் was taken from a temple. The email ID இது வந்து சஞ்சீவ் அசோகன் is writing an email. இது எப்படி கிடைச்சதுன்னு. ஸோ நாகப்பட்டினம் மன்னார்குடி பார்த்துற தீபாம்குடியில் ஒரு இதுக்கு பாண்ட் தோண்டும் போது கிடைச்ச சிலை, அதை வந்து யார்ட்டெல்லாம் காமிச்சேன் அவன் அதெல்லாம் சொல்லிட்டு then he goes on to say, sorry, தீனதயாள் டாக்டர் ராமச்சந்திரன் எங்க வீட்டுக்கு வந்தாங்க, அவங்க இன்ஸ்பெக்ட் பண்ணாங்க, அதுக்கப்புறம் யாரும் அது வாங்கல, ஸோ ஃபைனலாக நீ வாங்கிக்கோன்னு சொல்லி he buys this. Kapoor buys this, takes it to again this guy to do a chemical analysis. உங்களோட பயங்கர அட்வான்ஸ்ட் கெமிக்கல் அனாலிசிஸ். அதுல வந்து இது ஒரிஜினல் சோழா பீரியட் ஜெயின் தீர்த்தக்காரர். இது அவங்க தோண்டும் போது பட்ட அடி, அந்த இமேஜ்ல இருந்து ப்ரூஃப் எல்லாம் வச்சு இட் வாஸ் சோல்ட். Currently it is been seized and is coming back. Kapoor's father incidentally was charged in a 1970 case of a Vishnu idol, but அவங்களை பிடிக்கல, அதுக்குள்ள அவர் அமெரிக்காவுக்கு போயிட்டாரு. We're going to talk about this Paluvur Natarajar. நீங்க பார்க்கறது breakage கிடையாது. The robbers actually used a saw to saw off his left hand. அதாவது கோல்டு இருக்குன்னு நினைச்சிட்டு, அதாவது சோழ திருமேனிகள்ல செப்பு திருமேனிகள்ல தங்கம் வந்து சாஸ்திரத்துக்கு வெள்ளி தங்கம்லாம் வெரி வெரி மைன்யூட் 0.003% தான் இருக்கும். but they thought it had gold, and they actually sawed it off. 2005ல இந்த ஒரு ஜுவல்லர்ட்ட கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. அவர் அதை உருக்கி தங்கம் இல்லைன்னு வந்த சண்டேல அவர் கொண்டுட்டாங்க. ஸோ தேர் இஸ் a murder case. But surprise of surprise, that Nataraja appears in Subhash Kapoor's catalog in 2007 in New York with the hand intact. எப்படின்னு பார்த்தாக்க இதை வந்து லண்டன்ல காமிச்சு ஹாங்காங் வழியா the hand has been recast. ஸோ இதுதான் கட் பண்ணது. அதுக்கு தனியா புதுசா ஒரு கை செஞ்சு, அதுக்கப்புறம் just a month before Kapoor is arrested by Interpol Red Corner notice in 2011, recovered அப்படின்னு இந்தியாவுக்கு திரும்பி வந்துருச்சு. விசா இல்லாம ஒரு ஃபுல் ஆல் இண்டியா ஆல் வேர்ல்ட் டூர் போயிட்டு the Nataraja came back. அதுக்கப்புறம் this is what Deen Dayal's house was raided. இதுக்கெல்லாம் எங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப ஹெல்ப்ஃபுல்லா இருக்கிறது ராபர் போட்டோ. சுபாஷ் கபூருக்கு நிறைய இந்த மாதிரி இந்த மாப்பிள்ளை பொண்ணுக்கு போட்டோ அனுப்புற மாதிரி இந்த மாதிரி படங்கள்லாம் அனுப்பிச்சாங்க. ஸோ நீங்க இங்க பாக்குறது இந்த துவாரபாலர்கள், they just come back to Delhi in February. பின்னாடி வேஷ்டி, இங்க இருக்கிறது லுங்கி. ஸோ இதெல்லாம் திருடர்கள் just after smuggling they are sending it out to prospective buyers to bid on it. So இதெல்லாம் ராபர் போட்டோஸ். This is my first success. So I'm just going to show you Urdachalam Ardhanari, beautiful sculpture. Just run through. ஸோ என்னக்கு பியூட்டிஃபுல்னா அதோட ரெண்டு கையும் உடஞ்சிருக்கு. நிறைய பேருக்கு நான் சொல்லுவேன், இது நான் சொன்னால் வழியே உங்களுக்கு தெரியாது அவங்களோட ரெண்டு கையும் உடஞ்சிருக்குன்றது. அவ்வளோ அழகான சிலை. பப்ளிஷ்டு பிரான்ஸ், டக்ளஸ் பேரட்டோ பப்ளிஷ்ட் பிரான்ஸ் இமீடியட்லி ஆஃப்டர் த ராபர்ஸ். ஸோ இது இந்த ரெட் கலர் ராபர் போட்டோ. She was bought by the Art Gallery in New South Wales for almost $500,000. The robbers kept a fake. கிட்டத்தட்ட ஒரு 12 வருஷம் நம்ம worshipping the fake. The fake எப்படின்னா கையை வந்து அபயத்துல போட்டோம். ஆக்சுவலா அர்தனாரி கை இப்படி இருக்கணும், இந்த கை வந்து மடக்கி இப்படி பிடிச்சிட்டு இருக்கணும். ஸோ அது கூட தெரியாம நம்மளும் ஏமாந்துட்டோம். ஃபைனலி கேம் பேக். தட் இஸ் த அர்தனாரி கம் பேக் வித். ஸோ இதை நாங்கள் ப்ரூவ் பண்ணதுக்கு அப்புறம் வித் பப்ளிஷ் ரெஃபரன்சஸ் வி காட் அ லாட் ஆஃப் அதர் ஆக்டிவிட்டீஸ் தட் கேம் அப். ஸோ இதோட இது வந்து ரிட்டர்ன், இது விருத்தாச்சலத்திலிருந்து திருடப்பட்ட பிரத்யங்கரா தேவி, அது கூட ரிட்டர்ன் ஆன சந்தாவரத்திலேருந்து எடுக்கப்பட்ட புத்தர் சிலை இது. ஸோ திஸ் கிரியேட்டட் அ வாட்டர்ஃபால் ஆஃப் ரெஸ்டியூஷன்ஸ் அண்ட் ஆல்சோ பெண்டிங் கேசஸ். இது வந்து சந்தாவரம் இன் ஆந்திர பிரதேஷ். இது இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங். 3 வாட்டி திருடிருக்காங்க. இந்த they hit this place 3 times. முதல் வாட்டி வந்திருக்காங்க, வந்து கார்டெல்லாம் கட்டி போட்டு ஏஎஸ்ஐ சைட் தூக்கிட்டாங்க. ஸோ இது இட் ஆல்சோ கேம் பேக். இதோட க்ளூ வந்து வாஸ் given by a German expert. ஸோ இந்த க்ளூ வந்து ஆக்சுவலி இந்த ஓல்டு ஃபோட்டோவில் இருக்கு. ஸோ இந்த ஃபோட்டோ இந்த இடத்துல, ஸோ இஃப் யூ see it, you will see this is where it was still there. So photography is so important. Along with that, we are also tracking a few more that were stolen. This was auctioned by Christie's. This is now in the Louvre, Abu Dhabi, which all come back. Matched pair. So for those who have read the book, you will know what this means. The Suttavalli in irundhathu, Suttamalli in illa. So this was one of the vital clues one of our volunteers gave when it was up for sale by Subhash Kapoor, which helped crack this case. Adukapram there is a love interest. This is from the French Institute archives before they digitized it. So இப்படி தான் கண்டுபிடிக்கணும். போய் உட்காந்து இந்த சைஸ்ல இருக்க பின் கார்ட்ஸ் வச்சு தான் you should do the match inside these boxes. So this Nataraja was very interesting. You've heard much about it. This is the gentleman who was praying to an empty shrine. Robber photo, when the gallery photo, when it was bought for $5 million, அதாவது 40 கோடி ரூபாய்க்கு வாங்கினது. அதுக்கப்புறம் அந்த டீலர் வந்து டீலர்ல கியூரேட்டர் ரொம்ப பெருமையா சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தார், எல்லா நட்ராஜா, there are hundreds of Natarajas, everybody looks the same, how can you say this is the same சொன்னதுனால we managed to put the proof உங்ககிட்ட கொடுக்கறது என்ன, we put it on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and look for Return of the Dancer, you will see this. It became such an embarrassment that it was returned. He went back to the temple. He was kept in the same place, and this is how the temple was refurbished to return their abode. And I feel that bronzes, once they are documented, they become unsellable in the open market. So once you document them and once you have a good force, they can never leave, and they should not be kept in jails. When I say jails, they should not be at icon centers. We should come up with a way where they can go back to the temples. The temples are living ecosystems. We have a treasure trove of information that we are currently working on. So I'm just going to run through a lot. So pardon me, I've taken bulk of your time. This is the Uma that came back from Singapore. This is the Ganesha that came back from Toledo. It's all our work. All of this is documented. When you go back, you will see that. But I want to show you the extent of this loot. Kapoor actually gave about 800 items as gifts to the Toledo Museum. So இதெல்லாம் this is the Thachur Murugan, which is another interesting story which is covered a lot. This is from Sendamangalam that was taken during the Thane புயல்ல திருடினாங்க. இந்த மாதிரி எவ்வளவு பெருசு இருக்கும்? How big was the loot? So in 20, so this operation by Homeland Security was called Operation Indian Idol. So in 12 storage locations all over New York, Subhash Kapoor's stock when he was arrested in 2011. So I'm just going to show you pictures of his stock. இது வந்து அவரோட godownல அவரோட holding stock. அவர் நீங்க பார்க்கிறது எல்லாமே I'm just running through. No limits. So this is actually an Indus seal, and this is an Indo-Gangetic anthropomorphic form from Mohenjo-daro. இது ஒன்னு ரெண்டு இல்ல, he had so much. So we are not talking about a few Chola bronzes. We are talking state-wise. We are talking Tamil Nadu actually forms only 10% of the total. So how big was the total? So this is the 12 storage locations. Our holding stock was 2,622 objects, valued at $107 million. Was just his holding stock. He was one dealer, small-time dealer, and he was in business for 35 years. So adukapram nariya we've done a lot of raids. So this Yakshi will come back. When she comes back, she'll be the most expensive restituted icon. She was actually registered antiquity by a private ale, 2nd century BC stupa. The Moona Vonine Wadachi, they exported out, and they got a overseas guy to stick it back and make it whole. She was in the market for $15 million. One artifact was in the market for $15 million. She's been seized. Not only that, we're talking about Kashmir. This was a Kashmir Durga that came back. So I'm coming to the last part. I'm wanting to show you that, yes, we can do. I'm going to show you how we solved a theft from 1961 via WhatsApp. A lot of people think 1970 is some Lakshman Rekha which cannot be crossed. So this is how we solved. We were actually tracking this sculpture. So there was this French dealer talking in an interview with this sculpture in the background in a TEFAF show. TEFAF is an art market show. Apo, I was talking, so we have this WhatsApp group across all. So there are people from Italy, there are people from Cambodia. So we share information. They see an Indian artifact, they'll send to me. So it was a boys club, Mari. We call it the Avengers Club for Antiquities. So on that time, I was talking about this TEFAF. Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal, who is a very good friend, current principal lieutenant advisor to Modi, met a very interesting gentleman, retired ASA officer. அவர் வந்து ஆமா விஜய் பண்றான்னு சொல்ற உனக்கு தெரிஞ்சால can he crack this case ன்னு கொடுத்தார். So this was a case very strange. Nalanda, which is the most sacred of sites in Bihar. Two thefts happened in 1961 and 1962 closely. Total of 16 bronzes were stolen. இது வந்து is not something that I found out. 1977 on the Kamchala, on the report, it talks about one of the bronzes being identified to the LACMA, but India did not have proof. So I went back. So in the case in solve panna mudiyuma appdinna bodhu, I asked the retired ASA, Dr. Biswas, sir, engalkitta padam illa, padam irundha kodunga, we can work out. So he gave us a lot, and as due diligent people are, our internal memo la vechirundar 1960 lende. So he gave us some of these missing items. So as in the Gajini Mari, I printed out and kept it on my wall, committing them to memory. And you will not believe it, I was so lucky that they had all these descriptions for the rest of the items. Ellathukum padam illa, siladhukku padam irundhudu. LACMA ki he had a picture. So this is actually the bronze currently in LACMA, which has been, the claim is currently under process. But what was interesting is, one of my friends, the WhatsApp group la, so we are going to TEFAF. So indha varsham naanga poran TEFAF ku edana vanuman kekranga. So I'm asking them, I want basically இந்த dealer பேர் போட்டு Indian artifacts. அவங்க வந்து யாரெல்லாம் போய் பார்க்குறேன் அப்படின்னு அனுப்புறாங்க. They are sending me photographs. So this is all time you can see. 1 மணி 2 மணி 3 மணிக்கு வந்துட்டே இருக்கு. அப்போ வந்து அவங்க கேட்குறாங்க இங்கே ஒருத்தன் இந்த சிலை அனுப்புறான். So the moment I see it, I find that there is a vague memory but looks different. So I go back and say, so you can see what happened. So இதான் அனுப்புறாங்க. Think I have a match. So this is like actually what's happening. பட் என்ன ஆச்சு, இந்த திருடனுங்க உஷாரா இந்த பக்கம் அது புத்தருக்கு பின்னாடி இருக்கிற இலைய, ஸோ யூ கேன் சி இந்த உடச்சி இந்த பக்கம் ஓட்டிட்டாங்க. ஸோ டு கன்ஃபியூஸ் அஸ், பட் விஷுவல் மெமரி வாஸ் தேர். ஸோ இங்கேருந்து வி ஆக்சுவலி ரோட் டு தி ஏஎஸ்ஐ, வி டிட் த மேட்ச். ஸோ திஸ் இஸ் ஆக்சுவலி த மேட்சிங் ஒர்க் தட் வி டூ. ஸோ இனிஷியலி திஸ் வாஸ் ஹேப்பனிங் இன் நெதர்லாண்ட்ஸ். ஸோ நெதர்லாண்ட் போலீஸ்கிட்ட போயிட்டு இந்த மாதிரி ஏஎஸ்ஐ கிட்ட இருந்து லெட்டர் எடுத்துக்கலாம் லேட் ஆகும், இன்னைக்கு இதை வித்துட்டானா திரும்பி வராது. ஏன்னா கிட்டத்தட்ட ஒரு 60 வருஷமா இந்த சிலை வெளியே வராம இருந்திருக்கு, இப்பதான் வந்திருக்கு. இது எப்படியாவது தடுனா, திஸ் வாஸ் வெரி குட் ஃப்ரெண்ட் ஆஃப் ஆர்ஸ். ஸோ அவர் வந்து கிட்டத்தட்ட ஒரு 7 அடி அவர் போயிட்டு அந்த டீலர்ட்ட இது இங்க விற்க முடியாது, மேலே கம்ப்ளைண்ட் வந்திருக்குன்னு சொல்லிட்டு போயிட்டார். ஜஸ்ட் பேஸ்ட் ஆன் அவர் வேர்ட், because he saw the proof and he was convinced. So the sale was stopped. And not only that, the dealer said, I'm taking back to London. So this Buddha was taken back to London, where the Metropolitan Police involved. And then later, ICOM, and this is actually the letter from ASI, where they wrote to them saying that this is suspected to be a stolen one. அவங்க ரொம்ப டிஸ்பியூட் பண்ணாங்க. Then ICOM sent International Council of Museums sent an expert. And finally, I'm just asking to play a short video so that we can all enjoy, end this in a very good note. Before that, I'm just going to show you a few more restitutions that are on the way. And this is a call for help, which I want Sriram sir to explain and understand that in 1993, there was an amendment that was made in the IPC section 380, specifically for Tamil Nadu. நான் சொன்னேன்ல, இப்போ வந்து கோயில் திருட்டு வந்து they put it under house breaking theft section 380. தமிழ்நாட்டில் மட்டும் ஸ்டேட் அமெண்ட்மெண்ட்ஸ்ல வீடு பூந்து திருடுனா 6 வருஷம், கோயில் திருடுனா 3 வருஷம் அமெண்ட்மெண்ட் இருக்கு. I really can't understand how this amendment can be allowed to exist. So please help us to see if there's any way that we can get this back to it. Help us bring our gods home. And I will end with this, but I would like to show you a short video clipping of the restitution of the Buddha that happened on August 15th, 2018, so that we can end on a happy note and a positive note, saying that if we have the proof, we can get our gods back. Thank you.
Sir, I think you have to, okay.
India's national cultural heritage, a 12th century AD bronze image of Bhagwan Buddha. This is an incredible story of a 900-year-old cultural heritage that was stolen 57 years ago and is being returned back to India today. This image was among the 14 bronze statues stolen from the Archaeological Survey of India Museum at Nalanda in August 1961. Earlier this year, the High Commission and the Met Police were alerted by Mr. Vijay Kumar of India Pride Project about surfacing of this bronze statue at an auction organized by a London dealer. The Archaeological Survey of India confirmed these findings to the High Commission, and the same were conveyed to the Met Police. We take this opportunity to thank Metropolitan Police, in particular DS Block Upnu, DC Sophie Hayes, and the entire team of officers of the Art and Antique Unit of the Met Police for their swift and effective investigation in this case. We thank the officials from the Department of DCMS. We also thank Mr. Vijay Kumar and the entire India Pride Project team, Ms. Linda Albertson, CEO of ACRA, Mr. Martin Filkenberg of Royal Dutch Police, and Ms. Frans Desmarais, Director of International Council for Museums, for all their contributions in this event. Now may I request Detective Chief Inspector Sheila Stewart to say a few words on this case.
Morning. I'm delighted to be here today to return this piece of history to your exams. This has been made possible with the assistance of the current owner, who has made the decision to return the sculpture. This is an excellent example of the results that can come to close cooperation between law enforcement, trade and scholars. The Art and Antiques Unit, one of the oldest specialist units within the Metropolitan Police, takes great pride in reuniting owners with their stolen property. Although the Buddha was stolen over 50 years ago, this did not prevent these being recognised, and credit must go to the eagle-eyed informants who made us aware that the missing piece had been located so many years later. I would like to thank my team for their professionalism and the dedication and their continued work in international collaboration between the UK, India and further afield. We look forward to continuing our strong relationship in the fight against crime.
Thank you.
Yes, Vijay, you want to say something pursuant to that?
Uh, I think I've taken longer than what I was allowed, but I hope I did say and show things that create an impact. So I think we go into the. I don't know if Tilakavati madam is on the screen, but if she's on screen, I'd like to thank her. Later, maybe we can just play her video. But right now, I think we can go into the Q&A. I think that's more important.
There is a person with the name Tilakavati Palaniswamy. I do not know whether it is her.
Okay.
Okay.
Nama Q&A query.
Okay. Right. What can I say? I'm in a state of shock, actually. Let's start off on a slightly light note. How old are you to have done all this, Vijay?
74 born.
Okay. And you've started this you've been doing all of this in the last 15 years or so?
Yeah. So I moved to Singapore in 2006, and that gave me like 2.5 hours of my daily life because I didn't have to be stuck in traffic. So it takes me exactly 15 minutes a day to commute. So I found 2 hours of extra life, and that's what I've been dedicating every day. And again, this is not my work alone. I have a very, very dedicated core team of volunteers who have stuck with me through the harsh times, the bad times, the risk, and also the rebuttals and the closed doors. So we went through a lot of it, but I'm quite happy that the initial core team, every single one of them, have been with us. There's been no ego issues. I think that's because we are not doing it for money or rewards or awards. Our only reward is to bring our gods back. And I must say that I'm only the face of this movement, and all credit should go to the team that is backing me.
Okay. Now, forget this 1970 convention, forget the laws, forget the retrieval per se. You are not somebody who was personally victimized or aggrieved by any of this. How did this ever happen to you? I'm asking this only from one point of view. I'm sure as soon as we watch this, many of us are thinking, "Now, what can I do for this?" I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is such a thought.
Two
And
things. One is just that the insult, because I see, because of the work that we do, you go in an antique shop, people are scared to buy Cambodian stuff. People are scared to buy Italian stuff. But Indian art was fair game because they know that India did not care. That's number one. இப்போ ரோட்ல நீங்க நடந்து போறீங்க, உங்க பர்ஸ் ஒரு பிக் பாக்கெட் அடிக்கிறான், அந்த பர்ஸ்ல ஒரு 100 ரூபாய் இருக்குன்னா ஒரு 40 பேர் சேர்ந்து அவனை தர்மடி கொடுக்குறீங்க. Here are people who are robbing your gods and openly auctioning them, and it doesn't even hurt you. And this is not your possession. My strong feeling and thing is this is our shared heritage of our ancestors, that our sacred duty is only to protect it and pass it on to the next generation. அதாவது பாதுகாக்க முடியலன்னா திருடு போகாம வச்சுக்கோங்க. And it is something that I feel it is doing injustice to the wisdom of our ancestors in reducing our gods and to that they are seen as objects of art is incidental. The original creators never meant them to be pieces of art to be displayed in bedrooms and swimming pool rooms. The other thing is, I know you asked me this question. Lot of people the பார்த்தோனே ஒரு பிரசவ வேதனைனா வரும். My request to all of them stands the same from day one. ஒரு வாரம் ஆற போடுங்க. If after 1 week you remember this guy, still come to us. We don't take money. We don't take any recommendations. All we need is basically help in taking photographs, looking for old books. Go to your native place, even if the small temple heroes don't document it, keep it with you. And if you find any old person talking about an old theft, அதாவது தாத்தா பாட்டி உங்க ஊர்ல இருக்கவங்க வயசானவங்க யாராவது ஆமா இந்த ஊர்ல 60களில் ஒரு சில தட்டு போச்சு 50களில் ஒரு சில தட்டு போச்சுன்னா don't just brush it off. There is still scope. The world is changing. Nobody wants to be ashamed by having stolen art in their collection. So they're easier they want is to give it back. The question that somebody is asking on the comments, as I said, which is something that I didn't want to put a number, but I told you between 1978 and 2013, India bought back 19 artifacts. So far, our work, we have bought back 48 objects. About 240 are awaiting in the US to return. They were promised in 2016, but due to some bureaucratic hassles, ASI team went to the US to authenticate them only November of last year. But we are expecting a big restitution, and if we have support, you will see a lot more coming back. Our target by once, of course, hopefully COVID improves, you will see at least 300 as our contribution. And I don't want to put it in dollar numbers because I feel our gods are priceless and we shouldn't be peddling numbers. But for us, every single restitution is just reward. There is no better reward than seeing gods go back to the temples, which is where we need your help. In the sense that they should not be put in storage. They should go back to the temple. People should understand that once an object is documented, it becomes valueless in the international market. அதுக்கப்புறம் நீங்க பூட்டே போட வேணாம்.
Okay, fair enough. Now, most of the repatriation, so to say, has been happening from the US and European countries and Australia, correct?
Singapore, Germany.
Singapore and Germany. And how has been, I mean, at some place in what you showed us, I saw a reference to you as a whistleblower. Would that be an apt description?
Whistleblower, what we are doing basically is we assist law enforcement. In fact, that is one slide that I wanted to show, but what we do is basically we work in capacity building. So we work in policy where we work with, for example, customs and DRI. Not only in India, in world customs, in trying to streamline their policies and systems. We work basically in helping countries, departments get better. So our job is assisting law enforcement, assisting government departments. Okay, there is somebody asking about art loss register. It's very good, but I would take that question on a one-on-one. Just to give you, art loss register is basically somebody who is a for-profit organization in London. In fact, in my book, there is a whole chapter about it. Today, if you go you have to pay them 60 pounds and register it. And they will keep it in their database and check if any of the dealers come and ask them, they will check against their database to see if it is reported stolen. Unfortunately, none of our temples keep these records, and nobody is going to put it up on a paid database because Interpol itself has a stolen artworks database on their own, plus the ASI is also maintaining. So for me, if you have a big database, ALR works for Holocaust paintings. Adavadhu Hitler time la Jews putting in a painting, they were already rich collectors, the Jews who had a lot of paintings, they had photographed these paintings. So after World War II, the heirs of these victims used to pay fees to find. So they used to pay these provenance verification agencies to search for their paintings. So it works in those wherein the heirs or the custodians have photographs. In our case, sadly, namakita padame illa. So adunala ipo 1000 padam irundu or 10000 சிலைகள் தொலைஞ்சு போய் அதுல ஒரு 10 சிலை விலைக்கு இதை நான் வெரிஃபை பண்ணி இது என்கிட்ட ரிப்போர்ட்டட் இல்ல theft இல்லன்னு சொல்லி ஒரு சர்டிபிகேட் கொடுத்தாக்க it becomes useless. If you have a very comprehensive database, then you check the database, the certificate is worth it. To me, without a proper theft database from India, the ALR certificate is only optical due diligence. It's not worth anywhere. And place on record, 100% of every object that you've restituted sold by Subhash Kapoor had an ALR certificate saying it is not stolen.
Okay. Now, your previous answer in respect of assisting law enforcement in various countries was the precise point to which I was coming with that question. That was the follow-up. What has been the response from all these foreign intelligence agencies or law enforcement divisions all over the world? How responsive have they been to you? I mean, what is the exact modus operandi? Would you be able to contact them directly?
Well, it works the other way around. They
Okay.
contact us because for
Okay.
too long they have been trying to find independent scholars who are on the right side. As I told you, there are a lot of these scholars who are on the payroll of the collecting lobby cabal. So they're writing catalogs, they're authenticating objects. So the law enforcement is always wary about scholars. So as our successes went up, people realized that we are a pure group focused at restituting objects and not of other scholars who are also scared. பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இப்போ யூரோப்லயோ இல்லை அமெரிக்காலயோ if a museum curator feels that his museum has a doubtful object, அவர் சொன்னார்னா அவர் வேலை போயிடும். So they reach out to us in confidence to say, hey, can you check it, help us out. So similarly, law enforcement, they are blinded because they've, in fact, I wanted to show, but I don't want to be too critical. When we did the story about the Toledo Ganesha, the museum got scared. So we provided the match. They wrote to the Indian High Commissioner in New York. 6 months, they did not get a response. They wrote to the Indian High Com, and for 1 year, they did not get a response. Aதாவது a museum in the US saying somebody is telling me I have a stolen object, please take it back. They did not get a response for 2 years. அதுக்கப்புறம் they gave it to Homeland Security saying எங்களுக்கு வேணா இங்க ஒருத்தன் குடஞ்சிட்டே இருக்கான்னு. So the problem with India is for too long, our own experts have not focused in even replying to emails. Let's be very honest, it is the least priority on two counts. One, complicity is an angle that we don't want to enter right now. But the second thing is, like for the Kapoor case, you have to first of all accept that hundreds have gone out for you to accept the return. So nobody wants to accept the return because nobody wants to accept that you have lost so much. So even today, the ministry is putting out single digit numbers, whereas on record, the facts seem otherwise. So first of all, as I said, the elephant in the room is you have to accept that you have a problem. So corona பெரிய problem, அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் மருந்து கிடைக்க முடியும். Problem இல்லைன்னா யாரும் மருந்து கிடைக்க மாட்டாங்க. So law enforcement internationally have accepted it. They know that it is linked to nefarious activities, gangs. Money laundering is a big issue. They want to cut it. In fact, Europe and US is coming up with tying up antiquity sale, illicit trafficking to money laundering. So then it becomes even more penalizing provisions. But unfortunately, in India, there is this collecting lobby is trying to dilute the Antiquity Act, and they want to expose all our artifacts to danger.
Tell me something else. You've spoken about bringing a lot of gods back to India. Is this a malady or a disease that is exclusive only to India or to all these Asian countries which have got a rich tradition of idols? For example, Cambodia you've spoken about. What about Burma, for example?
One of the main champions are Egypt and Italy. Egypt actually capital punishment. If you're caught illicit trafficking, they have now enforced capital punishment. Illicit trafficking. Okay. Italy has been, as I said, for long champion. And what is interesting is India and Italy went jointly to the UN to get the statuette. Adukapra India sat back, Italy marched ahead. So Italy has a 3,000 strong Carabinieri art squad, choosing the best of their police officers. So they have IT experts, the best archive, and they have recovered over 170,000 objects between 1970 and now. நம்ம சொன்ன மாதிரி இந்தியா 19, Italy Carabinieri art squad is 170,000. But what is still irking is avaldu on the grave robbers. So most of it is tomb robbery, which have earthenware, pottery, craters, the wine kudukra craters. That is what is targeted by the Italian mafia, art mafia. So they are not living objects or living gods. நம்ம ஊர்ல கோயில்ல தேடி இருக்காங்க, அதை திருப்பி கொண்டு வர மாட்டேங்கிறோம். They are more worried about pottery and earthenware, which they are still confidently bringing back because they have an excellent archive. They have an excellent image matching software, and they provide this know-how freely to governments. So in fact, Carabinieri Art Squad offers training programs to law enforcement worldwide. But sadly, not many Indian law enforcement even go to attend these conferences. And
okay, a lot of people here who are watching you right now live who are from the Hindu Religious Endowments Department and some people from the Idol Wing, etc. How is your number one, your interaction with them? How has it been?
See, as I said, we never talk about a direct interaction because it's always on a dotted line, and our role is basically to help with our database. So frankly speaking, we have the largest distributed database of stolen Indian works of art world over. We have the largest collection of auction catalogs going back to 1970. So if you throw me an object that has been missing, I can bet that within a week we can tell you if it is out in public domain, when it was sold, when it was auctioned, where it is. And that is what was being used not only by Tamil Nadu, but also by various government departments all over India. Now, how you make use of it, how information comes to us. Say, for example, in a couple of temple cases, the trustees, old guardians wrote to us on social media telling us that, look, 1960s, 70s போச்சு, நாங்க வந்து டெம்பிள் ரெஜிஸ்டர்ல எழுதிருக்கோம், நாங்க கம்ப்ளைண்ட் கொடுத்தோம்னு, பட் அதை வந்து they have closed the case giving us some other idol. இது ஹெல்ப் பண்ண முடியுமா? So we managed to get the old photo and now we have matched it to a collection in New York. So my request to the departments here is, don't think that untraceable case is the end of it. We can dust it, we can open it up, and if there are such cases, trust us to say that we will only reply back to you, and we have no hidden agenda. There is no agenda. The agenda is to bring our gods back. So first thing we have to understand is 1970 is not a holy grail. You can go back and reopen cases. The only thing we have to go to our courts and a larger claim. Most countries, most museums, like what you have seen with the Thirumangalwar case in Ashmolean, Oxford, அவங்களுக்கு திருட்டு பொருளை வச்சுருக்கேன்னா அசிங்கம். இப்போ வந்து most museums are scared. So the moment you make it public, they want to give back quietly. So instead of making, previously it was not the case. They will fight you. So I have seen cases where in the US museums used to fight restitution, but now the public opinion has changed. UK has changed again. Nobody wants to keep colonial loot. So you basically, Elgin marbles is something that you can Google up. The international climate is for restitution. The only thing is we have to lodge a proper case. The Dubakur case lam pota vale kagad. So it has to be clear case with evidences. The evidences are very clear. Unfortunately, the start point is not coming from for various reasons. I would say that if you can, the start point is an FIR. Whether it is closed, whether it is destroyed, whether you have given them an alternate idol. The past is past. Mistakes have been done. But there is a chance to correct it. So 1960, 1950s la ponadala, we can get back. In fact, we have now a corpus of about 38 active cases wherein we are working a string of thefts that happened for bronzes, especially between 1960 and 1970. Cases have been taken up. We are waiting for good news shortly, and that is going to open up further. So help us help you. Unfortunately, the media has tarnished a lot of people's names. Take that effort to take one step towards us. We will help you regain your reputation because our goal is simple. We don't want to throw pot shots at you. We don't want to say you are bad, you are good. The only reason we are here is you show me a photo, I will find a match and tell you where it is, whatever detail is it, how it went there.
Okay. See, as I see it, there are probably 3 or 4 players in this entire scenario. Number one is the government, and since it is with reference to temple art and antiquities, probably the HRNC department. The second thing is probably the law enforcement. The third thing is probably the lawyers. The lawyers could have a serious role to play in this. And the fourth would be probably people like you. Okay, people like you, what kind of, this is probably an incentive to the other 3 participants, to the other 3 wings, so to say. What kind of, do you expect any help, or do you expect them to come out and ask for help?
See, right now, there is a lot of mistrust between the various arms, as you told me. The first thing we have to understand is we should have a common goal. The common goal, once we agree on it, everything else is simple. There is a lot of animosity saying nee tappu, na tappu, na tappu, nee tappu. I think that is past it. We all have to understand that there is a tappu. We have to look at what is the remedial measure. Now, I think law enforcement is hamstrung because they don't have information. And they don't get support from probably the best legal mails. In fact, the letter of rogatory, so you will have to support them. So maybe you can work on that. Similarly, let me open this up, and I normally call a spade a spade. We've been doing this for the last, as I said, 12, 13 years successfully since 2013. And we've been called to address the UN. Ban Ki-moon invited us to speak. We've been quoted in UN publications as a group that is changing the Indian landscape. New York Times has covered it. The Idle Wing has been in touch with us. In fact, I can play the video from Tilakavati ma'am. If anybody else questions over, we can play that. But what is lacking is not a single approach has been made by HRNCE or other departments. Not a single approach to any of my volunteers saying, "Hey, we have got this missing idol. Can you find it?" Almost a decade. So that is where எனக்கு வருத்தம், in the sense that we have opened. So we have always approached every time saying that help us help you, help us help you, help us help you. Till date, not even a single approach has been made to test us. And I told you the Nalanda Buddha case was a test. The guy never expected us to succeed. முடியுமா 1961 போனது முடியுமா உன் ஃப்ரெண்டால தான் கேட்டார். It was a challenge. I'm not saying we did it, it was luck. So maybe we are the vehicles. All of us are vehicles. The gods want to come back home. We will be their vehicles to carry them home.
HRNC department or other departments not approaching you now that we know your face and your email ID. I'm sure that is going to be rectified. Anyway, I think we have Hema Sampath, a senior advocate at the Madras High Court, who's raised her hand. And yes, Hema Sampath, please.
No, he's already answered me. I just wanted to know how many gods he has brought back and how many he hopes to bring back in the near future. So he already saw the chat and answered me. Thank you.
Okay.
I've heard him in Singapore. I've heard him in Madras. So I like hearing him every time because he would have brought back some more gods to our land. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I think there was somebody else who raised their hand. Anybody who wants to ask anything now? Because I'm very clear in my mind that
there
yes,
are two other people, sir.
Yes, the Vijay.
Yeah.
I'm safe now. The Commissioner HRNC department, Mr. Fanindra Reddy, he's raised his hand unless he's clicked on it by mistake. Mr. Reddy, please.
No, I've raised my hand.
Yeah.
First of all, thanks to Mr. Vijay Kumar. He's been doing wonderful work, and I've come to know about his work through his book, The Idle Thief, and excellent contribution to bringing back our gods to temples. From what I have learned from his work is that there needs to be a continuous coordinated work between the enforcement authority, the ASI, the MEA, and the custodian of the idols, that is the HRNC department. The temple's jobs in this whole chain starts with giving a complaint to the concerned police station. So now, beyond that, the temple does not approach, say, international voluntary groups or Government of India directly. It is this department, which is the investigation department, which will be filing an FIR and then doing an investigation, and they would be taking all the help. And in course of that investigation, if any information is required, that is where the role of HRNC department would come, or the temple's role would come in. They need to assist the Idle Wing department with all the information that is available at their command. That's where it is. I'm not very sure if HRNC department or the temples can directly approach the international volunteers, because it is basically the investigation agency which has to record all these things in their investigation and then take it to the next level. That's what I had to say.
Okay, I think we will basically have a session, because I would beg to differ, because as custodian, the custodian's duty is to put all efforts to track it. And in the past, as we have seen, we have a summation by HRNC that about 1,400 are missing, but still we don't even have a list of what is missing. And we do know that there is a tussle going on between the different departments. What we are trying to see now is, with the new management changes, is can we clear and make a level where all of us pull in the same direction. I'm sure ASI Delhi, for example, I'll give you a practical example. We have found a lot of these matches of objects from the French Institute Pondicherry missing from HRNC temples right from 1960s. We go to Delhi, they say these are not ASI sites, not under us. Now we go back to the custodians or the law enforcement, they say there are no FIRs. Now, who do we go to? We can't go directly to the temples. We have to go to HRNC. But HRNC, again, does not even reply to emails and approaches. As I said, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about in the past. So for me, the question is, first of all, there is issue. And we can, for example, right now, after this call, I can get you 38 bronzes. Are you willing to get me the FIRs? I'll tell you the temple. I'll give you the match. I'll tell you the museum it is there. I'll tell you which year it was photographed in French Institute with the matches. Now it is your property. Would you wait for the idol wing to take it up, or do you want to take it up? So these are questions that we need to do that in a more maybe one-on-one. But what I'm trying to say is, in the past, I'm not talking about you again personally, it's been that it's not my problem, and it's been compartmentalized too much, wherein we have not seen the results. Kapoor was arrested in 2011. After that, whatever has come back is basically what has not come back from the investigation, but objects that have been returned because the provenance has been proved wrong from robber photos. Not a single temple has raised a claim for their idol. So I think it is wrong to say that everything is right from our side. It is the law enforcement that has to get its act together. I think all of us have to work together and get our acts together if you want to find a solution. That's my humble request.
No, I'm not saying that all is right on our side. No, and I'm also not saying that if you have in knowledge of about 38 idols which are available, which you have noticed, and that belong to the temples in Tamil Nadu, will be we should be actually jumping to get hold of that information and then ensure that an FIR is launched. We'll certainly do that. We are in touch. We are in contact. I'll be grateful if you can pass on that information. We'll try to earnestly take up the issue with Idol Wing, and ensure that the FIRs are filed.
Okay. From our side, we don't keep this information secret. ASA has been ASA Delhi Director Antiquities has been informed 2 years ago about these matches. The Idol Wing, the current officers are also aware of this matches. The respective embassies, high commissions have been told, including the US, Germany, and London. And so from our side, we are taking all efforts to keep. So I'm very simple. I am answerable as an Indian citizen to India's law enforcement first. So whenever we find a match, the first email will go to ASI Delhi. The second email will go to the respective High Commission. The third email will go to the law enforcement of that state. And we have diligently followed it. And in this case, we would like to have your support and cooperation so that if we have a larger pond to fish, we can find out more idols, literally. Thank you. And I'll definitely be in touch with you.
Yeah, I'll just, just to supplement, there was this one case, the Tirumanga Alvar, which you have mentioned.
Yeah.
In that case, actually, it's the reverse, where you have you have found, and it was informed to the Idol Wing, and Idol Wing has got in touch with us, and we have launched an FIR.
Yes.
So that has also happened. Of course, we'll be also too happy to get this information from you, and then go the other way, and then launch an FIR. Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll do a one-on-one or two-on-one at some point of time.
Sure.
Okay, Vishnu, Advocate Vishnu has raised his hand. Vishnu,
yes,
come
sir.
on.
I actually wanted to say what the commissioner actually said, saying the HRNC does not have the mechanism to go and do all the stuff which the speaker is saying. It is essentially the duty of the investigating agency, which is the idle wing.
Vishnu, I beg to differ, and I would like to stop it at that. I'm very, very clear. You are earning money from the temples. If you lose an idol that is under your protection, you should leave no stone unturned to ensure. So what have you done basically for the filing of 1,400 missing idols? There is a department in Interpol which allows whoever is a custodian. If you go into look for Interpol Stolen Works database, you can register. They'll give you an email ID. You can go upload images. You can upload FIRs. So let's not get into this. That department, you are the custodian. Clear? Are you clear? You are the custodian. You have lost something under your watch. What have you done for it? Just filing an FIR 70 years ago, 60 years ago is not the end of story. And that is the exact point of this entire talk of 1.5 hours, is to say that we have not done enough. The current system of passing the buck is not helping. Can we find a larger interactive platform where we can get all the heads together and crack this international mafia?
I agree with you, but I was about to say, unless a public investigation is filed to form a committee for this, nothing is going to happen. That's what I was actually about to say. I was actually about to support your stand.
Okay. Thank you, Vishnu. Thank you. Sai Prasad, advocate. Yes, Sai.
Hi. In fact, first time I saw you in the earlier program, which was conducted by Sriram. I was very impressed. In fact, I had seen all your YouTube presentations and various other links which I was able to access. In fact, I'm also very seriously looking for your book. Unfortunately, COVID has prevented me from access.
You can read it for free because once COVID came in, Jaggernaut on the app has made it free to read online. So they asked the author, I said, anyway, there's no money in writing books. Might as well open it up free. So if you're waiting to read, it is available, but you have to read it on your mobile device.
Okay, I'm not too very comfortable in reading my mobile device, but then I would certainly like to write a print version of it. Sure. That apart, I'm sure that as part of your exercise in bringing back the gods to India, you would have faced various threats. Obviously, the lobby which we are talking of is not a small lobby, and it is politically connected. It certainly is has much more lot of money.
I'm going to stop you there because I'm getting this every meeting. I'll give you my standard answer. I have two answers.
Fine.
So there is a temple inscription which talks about 4 Shaivite custodians. There was a property dispute on the property of Shiva. The local bigwig usurped the property of Shiva in the 10th century. The 4 men basically said, this is property of Shiva, not your property. There was a dispute. The 4 of them lighted a fire and jumped into it. They sacrificed, saying, my word is that the king came, he punished the usurper, restored the temple land grants to the temple, and he asked the bad guys to make bronze replicas of these savants, 4 guys, and worship them every day in the temple. And we are talking about our ancestors, 4 of them, who gave their life a property of Shiva. Okay? So I would like to say that we are not doing nothing for property. We're talking about Shiva himself being stolen. As I said, I'm doing God's work, and we should not be afraid of petty thieves and criminals. If I don't talk, who else will talk? And I will keep talking, and touch wood. I don't think there is any need to be scared about talking the truth, especially if you're doing God's work. And I would rest at that. I work in the shipping industry. I have seen the trucking mafia as well. So this is nothing for me. And as I said, these are very, very small ants that are feeding into a global network. We have to dismantle the network. And as Sriram said, law enforcement, they are not some petty border police officers who want to catch one salai and give it back to you for a photo op. They are looking at dismantling the idol network. by catching the Kapoor network. If we had done justice, imagine if you had gone after the customs clerks, you have gone after the certificate, you've gone after all the shipper EDI data, we could have effectively brought down this entire mafia and you could have saved thousands of gods. Unfortunately, we are still satisfied with photo ops. So having said that, thanks for your concern. Lucky I'm in Singapore. I'm the face of this. I have some of my volunteers back home in India, and that's why I had to cut you short. But I think we are doing God's work, and we should not be worried about petty criminals.
Anyway, keep up your good work. In fact, I'll certainly be too glad to assist you in whatever manner which I would like to do.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Sai. And anybody else? Anybody else to raise hands or to ask anything? If not, we'll, I think, wind up because it's more than 2 hours.
Marathon session.
Since we started. The lecture on the HRNC Act went on for 2.25 hours. So we still have around 10 minutes more.
Okay.
Okay. So if nobody has anything more, yes, thank you. Thank you. If nobody has anything more, I think we'll stop.
Let's end. If anybody wants to keep in touch, after 1 week, they will get our email IDs, right?
Correct. If anybody wants, as Vijay said, if anybody wants to has this same level of heartburn after a week or 10 days, they can contact me and probably get his email ID, etc. Contact details. Sorry, who's that?
I think you accidentally.
Just by mistake.
Hey. That was me, sir. Sorry.
Okay. So thank you very much, Vijay. I'm sure with what Mr. Reddy said, we probably will have some kind of a private session together.
Sure.
And let's see how everybody can be helped in the bargain and how our own gods can be brought to God's own country.
Okay.
No reference to just Kerala. Thank you very much, Vijay, for those astounding figures, those serious facts, and the fact that it might be a very casual and dismissive statement by you saying that all these fellows are small fellows, we are doing only God's work, but ultimately whether the question